Live from the Public Relations Department of the Royal Thai Government, this is Radio Thailand News. สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะ
Today is Wednesday, the 1st of February 2023, and this is Radio Thailand's Morning News Hour with me, Yongyut Mayalap.
And with me, Sandra Huan Utsaha.
Starting off our national news this morning. The Cabinet approves an initiative from the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration to replace privately owned transit buses in the capital with electric models. Meanwhile, reports say traffic police dock about 11,500 motorist points in the 3 weeks since they started enforcing a new points system in January.
Looking at the global scene, the United States will formally end 2 national emergencies declared to address the COVID-19 pandemic on May 11th.
On the business agenda, Thailand anticipates this year's cross-border export value will reach 1.06 trillion baht.
And on the business agenda, Thailand anticipates this year's cross-border export value will reach 1.06 trillion baht. Now those headlines and many more coming up.
National News. Brought to you by Paya Thai. Enrich your life with our passion.
And
Daisy Learning Garden, the ray of light on Montessori.
First up in today's national news, we take a look at the Cabinet approving an initiative from the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration, or BMA, to replace privately owned transit buses in the capital with electric models. Now, the initiative will cover bus routes currently operated by private companies under an agreement with the Bangkok Mass Transit Authority. The routes eligible for this transition will need to receive authorization for electric bus operations from the Department of Land Transport. And government spokesman Anuta Burapachaisi said this initiative is expected to help slash emissions by 100 metric tons of carbon dioxide per vehicle annually for a total of 500,000 tons between 2021 and 2030. And the initiative will also help reduce air pollution from fossil fuels, particularly airborne particulate matter, or PM2.5, while providing commuters with more modern vehicles. Now, Thailand is driving forward its goal to become a major manufacturing base for the world's electric vehicle industry. To support this, Dr. Yongyut, so what would you say would make Thailand well-suited to become an EV hub?
Well, Cassandra, Thailand is the 10th biggest car producer in the world and largest in ASEAN. And so with the government going forward with the BCG model, the manufacturing of electric vehicles is becoming the main focus of the new area of economic development. The government has set the goal for 30% of total car production to be electric vehicles by 2030. And so many related and diversified businesses will emerge and become new frontiers of economic challenges and opportunities for the country, such as the charging station, the biofuel production, the power storage technology, and so on. And the government has introduced various tax cuts to boost the purchase of the EV as well. However, I think the set goal seems to encounter some obstacle along the way, mainly due to the high energy prices and the inadequate EV charging facilities. And sources of nickel, which is used for manufacturing batteries, is another problem, particularly for our country. But alternative use of zinc is a possibility that needs to be developed as soon as possible, as well as the problem of the shortage of semiconductor that needs to be overcome soon.
You know, so many things to consider before moving forward, right? To make sure we're well set for that as well. Now, the government does have a policy, a 30 policy for electric vehicles in Thailand. So for our listeners' benefit, could you help explain a bit more about this policy?
Well, this policy aims for Thailand to develop our manufacturing capacity of EVs by 30% by 2030. So there's 230s being used here. And I think the government will use various measures to achieve this, not only by tax incentives, but also other non-tax strategies to hit the target of a low-carbon society and a hub of EVs in the region.
So it's important that we do achieve this low-carbon society status soon. Now, moving on to our next story. According to local media, The Nation, traffic police stocked about 11,500 motorist points in the 3 weeks since they started enforcing a new point system beginning that is on January 9th. The Royal Thai Police, or RTP, reported on Tuesday that the most reported offense was not displaying evidence of paying annual vehicle registration fees. And a total of 1,700 motorists were penalized for driving without license plates, while about the same number saw points deducted for speeding. So, Dr. Youngyut, what can you tell us about the points lost for different types of traffic violations?
Well, there are 20 types of offenses from the criteria for reducing points, and each type of offense entails a deduction of 1 to 4 points. So you can have single-point offenses that include speeding, not wearing a helmet, not wearing a seat belt, not stopping for pedestrians at crosswalks, or using phone while driving, or driving on the footpath, and failure to make way for emergency vehicles. 2 points will be for running the red light, or driving against the traffic direction, or driving while having the license suspended. 3 points would be for hit and run, and driving when physically unfit. And 4 points would be for drunk driving, driving under the influence of narcotics, and road racing.
So I know that the RTP has everyone starting with 12 points, and traffic violations, when they result in these points getting deducted, if you lose all 12 points, then this results in a driver's license suspension and receiving 3 suspensions. Results in license revocation altogether. Now, motorists can check the remaining points in real time on the mobile app, Kapdi. Okay, so that means drive well, right? And let's take a look at another story. Thailand on Monday, February 6th, will be celebrating its world-renowned martial art of Muay Thai. The Muay Thai Day celebration this year will be held to promote the soft power asset that can drive forward the economy. And the announcement was made by the Minister of Culture yesterday at the Government House. And the organization held a promotional event for Muay Thai Day, which is celebrated annually, like I mentioned, on February 6th. Muay Thai Day honors King Sonpet, the 8th of the Ayutthaya era, who is regarded as the father of the country's traditional martial art. So Thai kickboxing is quite well known around the world, but do you have any special facts to share with our listeners about this martial art, Dr. Youngyut?
Muay Thai, translated into English as Thai boxing, is the national sport of Thailand, and is a martial art that originates in the ancient battlefield tactics of Siamese army. It evolved from krabi, krabong, literally long and short weapons, the weapons tactics of the Thai army. The early Muay Thai bouts pitted different companies within the Siamese army against each other in unarmed combat, or Muay Boran, with few rules and no weight divisions or time limits. And they became quite popular. Eventually were shown in stadia all across the country. In the early 20th century, time limits, boxing gloves, as well as a uniform set of rules were introduced, and during the latter half of the 20th century, Muay Thai was exported to many countries and is now practiced by hundreds of thousands of people all over the world.
Yes, I see foreigners do like to engage in Muay Thai as well. It is a beautiful art.
Yes.
Now, there's another event that will take place in February as well, from the 2nd to the 6th, and this is Inventors Day, and it's going to be held at Baitek Exhibition Center in Bangkok. And there's going to be a promotional event for it, hosted by the National Research Council of Thailand, and that will commemorate the granting of a patent for the Chai Patana low-speed surface aerator developed by His Majesty the late King Bhumibol Adulyadej the Great, who is regarded as the father of Thai inventions. Now, in your role, Dr. Youngyut, as official narrator for royal events here in Thailand, you must have had the chance to present many of His late Majesty King Ramadanite's numerous inventions. Do you have a favorite?
Well, back in 1990s, the worsening water pollution had called for several royal initiatives to alleviate the problem, and in response to this, to His Majesty's concern and initiative for water pollution, the Chai Patana Foundation began its efforts to develop wastewater management, garbage disposal, and waste material reutilization. And the foremost royal initiative for wastewater management is His Majesty's invention of the Chai Patana aerator. I first saw this innovative equipment when I started working as a doctor at Pramangkut Klau Hospital in Bangkok. And some of the first Chai Patana aerators were placed in canals located within the hospital compound. and the Payathai Palace, which is next door to the hospital. This is to deal with the poor water quality in the canal. And it was very inspiring machinery, and the resulting clean water was very impressive. I remember those pictures very clearly up to today.
Very impressive indeed. And you can still see these aerators practically, you know, in many places.
That's right.
Yeah, so a lot of benefit for the country. And that wraps up the national headlines for this morning. Coming up next, Australia's Nuclear Safety Agency joins the hunt for a tiny radioactive capsule missing somewhere in the outback.
You're listening to Radio Thailand News.
Daisy Learning Garden, tri-language program, where children and their families can learn and grow together through the Montessori approach in a natural environment with language diversity. Daisy Learning Garden, the ray of light on Montessori. Contact line at Daisy Ray or 081-466-5959.
Interested in advertising on Radio Thailand channels? Contact us today at 082-949-1982 or email radiothaifm88@gmail.com.
Global News. Brought to you by
Daisy Learning Garden, the ray of light on Montessori.
Welcome back to the Morning News Hour here on Radio Thailand. We broadcast live from FM 88, FM 95.5, and also online at nbt.prd.go.th. Now let's have a look at the global headlines. First up, U.S. President Joe Biden has informed Congress that his administration will formally end 2 national emergencies declared to address the COVID-19 pandemic on May 11th, restructuring the federal response to the virus as an endemic public health threat. The announcement on Monday came in a statement opposing resolutions being brought to the floor this week by House Republicans to bring the emergency to an immediate end. And the Office of Management and Budget wrote in a statement of administration policy that an abrupt end to the emergency declarations would create wide-ranging chaos and uncertainty throughout the healthcare system for states, for hospitals and doctors' offices, and most importantly, for tens of millions of Americans. Now, I can understand how an abrupt end to any important measure would cause a bit, if not a significant amount of chaos. But perhaps phasing out or incremental change would be better. What are your thoughts on this, Dr. Yongyut?
From Chandra, I think we have seen what happened in China with a sudden U-turn on the zero-COVID policy. And the Chinese government had to go in full swing on the mass vaccination of the elderly population and preparation to face the surge in COVID-19 cases throughout the country. The exit wave for China was affecting now the workforce, and it's happening quite widely, many becoming ill with the infection. However, the situation in the U.S. may be different than China because the development of herd immunity and the use of many different kinds of vaccines, including the mRNA vaccine, depending on the public preference as well. And also complete lockdown measures were not lately or strictly used in the USA. Therefore, the wide immunity that have been developed may bring different consequential scenario from that we see in China.
So some similarities and some differences.
That's right.
Now, this announcement in the U.S. comes as legislators have already ended elements of the emergencies that kept millions of Americans insured during the pandemic. And the change would also mean the response can be managed through public health agencies' normal authorities. Now, countries around the world are downgrading COVID. Thailand has. Japan is considering doing so soon. What more can you share with us on this, Dr. Yongyut?
Well, if we take a look at Japan, which is about to return to normal very soon. They're going to move the categorization of COVID-19 in Japan from the high class to the lower, less severe class. And that means a lot of things. The biggest change would be the infected individuals will no longer be required to self-isolate. And at present, COVID-19 Japanese patients are required to quarantine for 7 days, which can be shortened to 5 days if they test negative on the 5th day. That also means close contact would no longer need to self-isolate. And after the downgrade, the central Japanese government will no longer have the authority to issue state of emergency quasi-emergency measures, which means restaurants and bars will not be obliged to close down or shorten business hours, and borders restriction currently in place for travelers from China are likely to be eased as well. So this is information from the japantimes.co.jp website.
So it's good information for us to pay attention to. I mean, the Japanese government itself will have to monitor the situation and adjust their policies properly. And I guess here in Thailand we can learn from what happens elsewhere in the world as well. Now, in another global story, Australia's Nuclear Safety Agency has joined a week-long hunt for a radioactive capsule that has gone missing in the west of the country and sparked a radiation alert. The Australian Radiation Protection and Nuclear Safety Agency said in a statement that it is working with the Western Australian government to locate the capsule. The capsule is believed to have fallen from a truck, and it was part of a gauge used to measure the density of iron ore feeds that had been entrusted by Rio Tinto Limited to a specialist contractor to transport. And the company on Monday apologized for the loss, which could have occurred any time over the past month after January 12th. Now, this is quite concerning news. Can you tell us more about the dangers of this capsule?
Well, I think everybody listening to this news will find it quite incredible. It may sound worse than finding a needle in a haystack, but I think the
It's so tiny, right?
Yes, but you can use the radioactivity of the capsule to give you traces of where it could be. So it might not be that difficult. But however, from the Guardian.com website, the capsules is like these are commonly used industrially as fixed radiation gauges, which measure the density and flow of materials. They are widely used in the mining, the oil and gas industries. And with regard to their effect, the Professor Dale Bailey at University of Sydney said that the missing capsule posed two main hazards to human. Exposure is one thing, and the more serious concern is the contamination. Exposure is like sitting in the sun on a hot day and getting UV radiation. If you limit your time and you maximize your distance from it, then you limit how much exposure you get. But at the same time, if you have it contaminated, that can be quite serious. You can have bleeding of the skin, ulceration of the tissues, or tissue death in severe cases.
Very, very concerning indeed. Now, the agency said in a statement that it has sent a deployment team with specialized car-mounted and portable detection equipment to support the search of the transport route between the Pilbara region and Perth. So hopefully they find it soon. Right, a very long distance indeed. Let's take a look at Germany pledging 200 million euros or $217 million to help Brazil defend the Amazon rainforest, which is a global ecosystem devastated during years of rule under former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro. Now, Germany's development minister said the German government recognized that Brazil's new leftist administration was working hard to show results in reducing deforestation in its first 100 days in office. I don't think people truly understand how important the Amazon rainforest is to the entire world. What can you share with us on its importance?
Well, it is Earth's most biodiverse region. It's filled with plants, trees, and teeming with animals of all types and sizes. And according to NBCnews.com website, it's also the world's largest rainforest, spanning more than 2 million square miles in northern part of the South America, mainly in Brazil, but also in parts of Peru, Colombia, and 6 other nations. It's called rainforest because it has a rainy condition, and it has been existed for 15 million years. So the Amazon rainforest is now under threat from human activities, like we go in and devastated the area with the fire to clear the area for ranching and agriculture and mining and so on. So it's something that we have to look after, and it actually, the rainforest contributes about $8.2 billion a year to Brazil's economy.
So it's very important economically as well as for the world, because I know that it's like the lungs of the world indeed.
Yes.
So that brings us to the end of our global report. Still to come in our business section. Thailand's recovering tourism scene helps raise the tourism business's confidence index for the first quarter of 2023.
You're listening to Radio Thailand News.
Daisy Ray, the Montessori Trilinguage program. where we support each child to create their own identity and encourage independence in an enabling environment. Daisy Ray, the ray of light. Contact line at Daisy Ray or 081-466-5959.
Do you know how to set up a business in Thailand?
Not really.
And if I needed foreigners to work with me, would they need a work permit? What about their visas?
Well, I know of Mr. Work Permit and Bookkeeping Company.
Mr. Who?
Mr. Work Permit and Bookkeeping Company. With over 20 years experience, from company registration to work permits to one-year visas and active secretary services. This company does it all.
Have you got his number?
Sure. It's 02-632-7117. Or check it out at www.bookkeeping.co.th. Simplify your business life.
Interested in advertising on Radio Thailand channels? Contact us today at 082-949-1982 or email radiothaifm88@gmail.com.
Business News. Brought to you by Thai. Enrich your life with our passion.
And
Daisy Learning Garden, the ray of light on Montessori.
You're listening to the Morning News Hour, brought to you by Radio Thailand, with me, Sandra Han Utsaha.
And with me, Yongyut Mayalap. We broadcast live from FM 88, relay to FM 95.5, and are online at nbt.prd.go.th.
And in this morning's top business issues, Thailand's export sector is seeing relatively positive performance, particularly in terms of goods exported to markets under trade agreements. The Department of Foreign Trade, or DFT, anticipates that this year's cross-border export value will reach 1.06 trillion baht. Now, DFT Director General Ranarong Poonpipat said Thai exporters in 2022 leveraged tax benefits provided under 12 active free trade agreements for a total of $84.63 billion worth of exported goods, achieving 10.9% growth year on year. And goods sold to FTA markets that saw significant growth in value included automobile, fresh durian, and chicken meat, while markets in Southeast Asia remained destination markets for exporters leveraging FTA benefits for a total of $30.79 billion in value. Now, exports are an important source of income for Thailand. What more can you tell us about this, Dr. Yongyut?
Well, I researched in terms of the export story from Investopedia.com website. Exports are incredibly important to modern economies because they offer people and firms many more markets for their goods. And one of the core functions of diplomacy and foreign policy between governments is to foster economic trade and encouraging exports and imports for the benefit of all trading partners. Companies often measure their net exports, which is their total export minus their total imports. Net exports is a component of measuring of a country's gross domestic product, or GDP. So export plays a factor in determining a country's financial and economic well-being.
So it's an important factor indeed. Now, the department has also set a goal of exporting 7.5 million tons of rice this year. So obviously, Thailand has agricultural goods that we share with the world. But what accounts for Thailand's main exports, and what other information do you have for us about this?
Well, according to tradingeconomics.com website, Thailand is an export-oriented economy, with export accounting for around 65% of the GDP. The country mainly exports manufactured goods, with electronics, machinery and equipment, and also foodstuffs being the most important. Agricultural goods, mainly rice and rubber, account for about 8% of total shipments. And major export partners are China, Japan, the United States, and the European Union. Others include Malaysia, Australia, and Singapore, but top of the list will be China with 12%.
Interesting. Now, this year's export target for tapioca and tapioca products, importantly, has been set at 9 million tons, with China, EU countries, Turkey, New Zealand, India, South Korea, and Japan being the main markets for tapioca and tapioca products. Okay, let's have a look at the confidence index of the Tourism Council of Thailand, or TCT, which now stands at 77 points. with the highest confidence score of 89 achieved by operators within the spas and Thai massage business circle. And tour agencies, meanwhile, had a confidence score of 85. Now, the business group with the lowest confidence score was the entertainment venues category, coming in at just 66. And the TCT found overall, 92% of tourism businesses nationwide have resumed operations, bringing tourism sector employment up by 12%. So the index and the employment news are all good for Thailand, and because tourism is a key economic driver. What else do you think can help boost tourism?
Well, this is an opportunity for the country to develop the spa and Thai massage services even further, with the standards being monitored in all localities to ensure the quality and fairness of the services being provided to our customers, whether they're Thais or foreign visitors. And the production of staff for spas and Thai massage businesses with skills and customer-centric mindset is very essential to make the sector grow sustainably, and that will require education and professional training. And there are a number of universities and academic institutions offering courses, short and long, for this purpose. Foreign language literacy is also very important for businesses in this field too, and business operators may have to invest in the language training for their staff.
According to our news story here, in addition to what you just shared with us, the TCT is also collaborating with 3 agencies to quickly produce workers through short training courses to rapidly meet the labor demands. And these agencies include the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Labor, and Thailand Professional Qualification Institute. Thailand's expanses of fields and farms have long been a defining feature of its culture and life. Now, agricultural tourism is opening the distinct world of Thai farms to visitors from across the globe. Agro-tourism experiences take visitors into authentic community lifestyles and connect them to the very essence of a destination. Thailand is home to an array of agro-tourism opportunities where visitors can spend time with locals, join in traditional farming, and discover harmony with nature. A devoted member of ASEAN, Thailand has given importance to the areas highlighted for development by the association, from education, sports, art and culture, and communication to labor, youth, women's rights, poverty, natural disasters, and public health. Through both its own programs to participation in regional endeavors, Thailand is driving progress in the 15 matters deemed crucial by the ASEAN community.
Interested in advertising on Radio Thailand channels? Contact us today at 082-949-1982 or email radiothaifm88@gmail.com.
With that, we wrap up the morning news hour for Wednesday, the 1st of February 2023. Our next news hour is at midday today. But Radio Thailand's hourly news will provide more stories around the clock.
We hope you have a great day today. I'm Sandra Han Utsaha. Swadika.
And I'm Yongyut Mayalao. Sawadee.
Live from the Public Relations Department of the Royal Thai Government, that was News Hour.